Hello, welcome to Sweet Spot Recording School. My name's Chris Beaver. Today we're going to be checking out some limiters and in a test to see just how transparent these limiters are. These are all primarily used as mastering limiters, and the goal of this test isn't necessarily to see how loud we can get them. It's how loud can we get them while still retaining the clarity of the mix. How loud can we get them before they start to break up and fall apart? So the four limiters we're going to try is Waves L3, Slate Digital FGX, Ozone 5 Maximizer, and FabFilter ProMB. Okay, so I've recorded a track, a simple little rock track consisting of drums, two guitars and a bass. I've intentionally made the drums slightly louder than what I would usually do in a mix. This is so we can really home in on how these limiters are working, because if they're gonna mess up, it's the transients it messes up, and it's the transients it loses. The biggest mistake I see when people use plugins like this is they'll simply play the source material and pull the threshold down whilst listening to it, and this is not a good way of doing it, and I'll explain why. As you increase the limiting on these, you don't really want to be monitoring it louder, because by doing so, you're not truly going to be able to hear what it's actually doing, and it's very easy to overcook it without realising it. Now you'll see this little button in the middle between the threshold and ceiling in the centre. If you click and hold that and reduce the threshold from there, it will compensate the output master volume by turning it down. The reason this is a really good idea is because you can hear exactly what the limiter's doing without being fooled with extra volume that would come if you wasn't doing it this way. You know, you want to hear what it's doing. You don't want it to destroy your mix just to get it louder. Let's apply this to our source material and see how well it does. Okay, good spot for this seems to be 7.5. Turning it past that point, we're starting to have a degradation of the sound, really. The thing you really should be listening for are the drums. They're losing their impact the more it goes up. I'll push it past that so you can hear it. 7.5 does seem to be the best place for this. Now we've done that, we can put the output ceiling back at 0 and actually compare the difference with the track. This track at the top here is unmastered, going through nothing. This number 2 track here is the Waves L3. I'll solo between them both so you can hear just what an impact it's made. As you can hear, that sounded really nice. We've managed to get an extra 7.5 dB of gain with minimal coloration. In fact, if anything, it's added a little bit of glue and the track is sounding better for it. Now the next plugin I want to show is FabFilter Pro Limiter. Now this plugin has a lot of options, a lot more options than the Waves plugins. This test really is more about how much RMS we can get out of these plugins. A nice thing with this plugin is it actually shows you the RMS level, which is very important. Now again, we'll do the same trick with the volume. In the case of this particular plugin, you have to keep your finger on Alt whilst raising the slider, and you'll see that it will reduce the output accordingly. So we'll play the track and see where this one sounds good. Okay, at 6.7 it's showing a little bit of musical glue. That's sounding quite pleasant. At this point it's not breaking up. Let's see if we can get any more out of it. Even at plus 10 dB, that is still holding its own. Let's see if we can get any more. Okay, 11.5, which is absolutely huge. Beyond that, it's starting to fall apart, but even, you know, let's see how much RMS this is. Okay, that's got us to between 9.5 and 9.5 RMS, which is incredibly loud. And to keep transparency with that kind of gain, it's done an amazing job. The Waves plugin simply sounded terrible when I attempted that kind of setting. Okay, that was looking at around 8 dB RMS, -8, which is phenomenal. That's actually louder than most commercial releases. I wouldn't necessarily mix that loud myself, but wow, that's really impressive. And it has an interesting advanced parameter here with a look ahead. The louder you want your music, you're going to want this as low as possible. You don't want it too low, as it will involve distortion. But a very fast time like that, 22 milliseconds, it is doing a great job. Right, let's compare that to the Waves plugin. Just look out for the solo buttons here so you'll know which one's which. They really both sound very good. The FabFilter clearly can go a lot more. Okay, so next up is Ozone 5's Maximizer. This is part of the Ozone mastering suite, and it has quite a few options for us to play with here. Okay, so let's see how this one's sounding. Okay, the -10 dB has completely lost it. It's destroyed the mix. Let's back it off. track. I'm pretty sure it can go better than -5. Now I'm going to change the character here because very fast. Okay, this should improve things. At 9 dB again, we've got it up to now, and it's sounding okay. It's losing a bit on the drums, as all of these type of plugins do. So let's see if its transient recovery is actually worth its salt. Very subtle, but it is helping a little. Let's see if I can push this to 11.6. That's actually changed how the snare is sounding. Let's compare it to the original. Notice the smack on the snare. It's took away the attack of it, although you can still hear it. I don't like that because it's actually changed the sound of the mix. So I'm going to back it off and see at which point the snare starts to sound like my snare. Okay, 6.7. We'll just compensate. Compensate there with the volume on the track. That sounds nice. It's still retained the sound of the original, although clearly once you start increasing it past this point, it is showing some weird artifacts. Okay, so let's compare this. Put this back at 0 dB, and let's compare this with the others we have. Look out for the solo positions, as it'll be self-explanatory as to which one's playing. I think we'll start with the original, which is untouched by anything. This one seems to be on par with Waves L3. It's very similar, can produce a very similar level of RMS before it starts showing artifacts. And it doesn't come close to the FabFilter, but it's definitely a rival for a Waves L3. In fact, when pushed harder, it performs better than Waves L3 did. Okay, and finally we're going to test out Slate Digital's FGX. This is a very unique plugin and has a lot of really good features. It's got a constant gain monitoring here, so you haven't got to worry about your levels jumping up. It's actually got a compressor, which is a real nice transparent compressor that goes before the limiter, which is a nice touch. And these dials here, the low punch and detail, they basically, what they do is they recover the transients of your snare and kick drum accordingly after you've limited it, which is a wonderful little touch that really works Unfortunately, this plugin seems to be having an issue with Camtasia Studio, whereas it's been quite glitchy. Because this plugin is glitching out, I'm going to set the levels so everything sounds good and then just show you the final outcome. As you can see here, we've got really high RMS levels out of this, exceeding -8 RMS with minimal artifacts. The detail and low punch work absolutely amazingly, as does the dynamic perception. It brings back all the transient detail that you lose when you overcook these things. One of the downsides of having your music so loud, particularly something like a -8 RMS level, is it can cause ear fatigue when you're listening to it, you know, because essentially you're stripping the dynamics out of the music. In real world terms, I would not use settings even close to this. The pure object of this test is to see how transparent they can be. How much can you push them while they keep as much detail as possible? All of them will lose some detail if you push them up really high, and to be fair, I could push them all up even higher than this, but I don't want to lose the detail. And this is how you can judge these things. It is how much detail can you retain once you turn them up, you know? This is purely if you're gonna get a mastering limiter, just to give you a bit more of an insight into what to expect. And yes, I could have made the waves louder than what it is. You can make them all louder than what I've done here, but the point is I've tried to do it whereas you're losing the minimal amount of detail, because I think the second your song suffers even a small bit because you're trying to gain volume, it's at that point, you know, it's at that point when you should back it off, because volume means nothing. Because at the end of the day, a listener is going to put a track on, and if it's too loud, they're going to turn it down. If it's too quiet, they're going to turn it up. So they'll listen to it at the level. Obviously issues arise, and the reason people want them so loud is for things like radio play. When, you know, if your track comes on and it's a bit quieter than the track before it, the general public are going to perceive that as not sounding as good. It's a sad fact, you know, and this is the reason the loudness wars have been going for years. Now, there's a few things in place to actually end this that have started already. I'll make another video about that, because there's some great things happening now. Finally, I'm going to go through all of these in turn so you can hear and compare for yourself how these things compare with each other. Starting up, just look for what's soloed, and it's self-explanatory as to what's what. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Okay, cheers. Bye.